For Henry Box Brown, now a household name and a face frequently reproduced in abolitionist pamphlets, the Fugitive Slave Act was an immediate death sentence. He was the most famous fugitive in America. His former owner now had the full, aggressive, federally backed authority of the U.S. government to seize him, drag him before a commissioner, and return him to Virginia. His freedom, won through unimaginable suffering, was now forfeit even on the hallowed ground of Massachusetts. Thousands of other escaped slaves who had built new lives in northern cities suddenly faced the same terror, many fleeing further north into the safer refuge of Canada. Henry, advised by his friends and recognizing the severity of the threat, made the agonizing choice to leave the United States entirely. In late 1850, he boarded a ship and sailed for England. He spent the next 25 years in the United Kingdom, turning his remarkable story into his livelihood. His career took an unexpected and complex turn across the Atlantic. He continued his abolitionist lecturing, but he also reinvented himself as a professional showman, exhibiting a massive, intricate painted panorama called Henry Box Brown's Mirror of Slavery. This was not merely a lecture, it was a multimedia spectacle, using moving canvas scrolls to depict the horrors of slavery and the triumph of his escape. He even staged repeated reenactments of his journey, climbing back into a box and having himself shipped between English towns to raise awareness and money for the cause. The original act of survival became a repeated piece of theater, a continuous performance of his trauma and liberation. As the years passed, however, Henry Box Brown faced new challenges and criticisms from his former allies. Some American abolitionists, including the great Frederick Douglass, publicly chastised him for capitalizing on his escape and for what they perceived as excessive showmanship. More devastatingly, they condemned him for failing to use the substantial funds he earned to purchase the freedom of Nancy and their children, who remained in slavery. Henry, who had started a new life, marrying an Englishwoman named Jane Floyd and beginning a second family, distanced himself from the American abolitionist establishment, defending his choice to use his platform for broader public education rather than prioritizing the ransom of his original family. This controversy highlights one of the most painful ethical dilemmas of the era: the conflict between personal liberty and familial duty, and the often cynical demands placed upon public figures who had been formerly enslaved. Henry Box Brown remained in England until 1875, long after the Civil War had ended, after the 13th Amendment had abolished slavery, and after the Fugitive Slave Act had been rendered null and void by the cataclysmic forces of history. When he finally returned to the United States and Canada, he did so not as a fugitive, but as a recognized performer, a magician, a mesmerist, and a man who billed himself as Professor H. Box Brown. He continued to feature the box in his act until at least 1889, a startling testament to the enduring power of his initial escape. He would emerge from the original crate, now a relic of history, as a living symbol of a dark chapter closed. Henry Brown's story is not merely one of daring escape, it is a profound lesson in the American legal and moral landscape of the 19th century. His journey exposed the fundamental flaw in the federal system, that a human being could be reduced to a piece of freight, and his subsequent exile proved the lethal efficacy of the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act, which turned the entire nation into a slave-catching apparatus. He was a man who used the industrial and postal systems designed to move commerce to subvert the very commerce that had sought to destroy him. His survival was a protest, his fame a weapon, and his long, strange life as a performer in exile was the price paid for his miraculous 27-hour journey to freedom inside a small wooden box marked with such grim, hopeful irony, "This side up with care." He died in Toronto in 1897, a free man who had, quite literally, shipped himself across the threshold of history.